Well, good morning. Thank you for attending this morning. We're going to get started here in just a minute. We're letting some people hop on at the last minute. So if you will please sit tight, we will start our webinar in just 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, it looks like those that were hopping on are going to hop on. So good morning to everybody that's in attendance today. My name is Troy Guevara and I'm with Digitech Solutions. And today we have a TimberScan webinar, specifically a Core Cloud webinar going on. So I'm going to turn the time over to Sandra with Core Associates, and she's going to introduce you to our presenter today. So Sandra, it is all yours.
Thank you, Troy. We appreciate your team coordinating this session. I'd like to introduce you all to Steve Jordan, our Core Cloud Specialist. Steve is the creator of the solution that you'll be seeing in just a moment, Core Cloud, and he'll be an excellent resource for you and your team. He'll be demonstrating the credit card and expense solution, and today's presentation is designed to give you an overview. And of course, if you'd like a presentation just for your company, let Troy know, and we're happy to coordinate that for you. So Steve, you can take it from here.
All right, well, thank you very much. Welcome aboard. Hopefully for the next 30-40 minutes, you'll get to see an exciting product that we have developed here at Core Cloud, at Core. And we want to be able to show you some of the new concepts that we have and how that works. And then we'll open up for questions at the end. So if you have any questions, we'll definitely give you time to do that. If you're familiar with TimberScan, this has kind of been our core product for the last 13 years. We've been very successful with about 30,000 users and about almost 1,800 customers. And we kind of pioneered this whole single touch entry point validation process, fully integrated to Sage with the accounts payable workflow. About four years ago, they partnered with the Core guys, the Core Cloud guys, and then eventually took over the software. And what this particular product is we are now moving into the cloud environment, so that basically, like for instance, in the TimberScan world, we've moved TimberScan approving out to the cloud. So we're going to start moving more and more of the functionality that is which is what we consider the older legacy out into the cloud, so that we can deploy that in a browser. But what we're really excited about and what we're going to talk about today is our new Core Cloud products on our forms tools. What this is going to allow you to do is we have built a series of applications that are cloud-based, they're mobilized, they use the same functionality that we've used in TimberScan, which is that entry point validation. So all of this information that we gather in the forms or gather in the applications are going to automatically come in and update TimberScan and Sage. And as you can see right away, we have kind of a robust product line now. So where we used to be one or two products, we now have our CCS forms tool, which is included in TimberScan today. And also we have modules for credit card and expense reporting. We have modules for mobile time entry, for field purchasing. We can do customized solutions. We can also, we have a full suite of material management from purchasing and inventory and buyout to service management and dispatch. And so you can see that we've not rested on our laurels. We're actually growing the product line, and all of that wraps around the Sage 300 CRE product, so that you can have that integration functionality there. The basis of the Core Cloud system is that it's a very powerful cloud-based portal platform. What it allows you to do is take forms and build them and deploy them in either a mobile device or on a desktop. We can actually take and make a very strategic, customized solution with routing and user configured functionality, so that say an expense report or a daily report, if it's assigned to a job, can take on a specific route because that form is related to that job. And this we allow and give the opportunity for the users to be able to build as an application development tool. Unlike a standard reports forms tool that you see in our competitors, we actually store all the data, and we give the customer the robust flexibility of being able to do routing and also be able to create and design the forms themselves, not only the input side, but the output side as well, which is the actual image record. And then we capped it off in the fact that now with our AIM product, which is our document management system that's built into TimberScan, you can now have a place to put those forms automatically, so that as you process a form in the field, you can walk it through an approval process and a reporting process, and then when it finally gets submitted into the system, it goes into AIM, our document management system, fully indexed and then paper clipped into Sage. So it's a seamless one-touch system where we can reduce the data entry. We still have that electronic routing that we built with our AP system, and basically we've gone from there. The foundation of our system is a rapid development engine, so the users can actually create their own apps, which we call forms. And also the fact that this product comes from a single supplier. So for instance, if you have multiple applications in the field, it's a real hassle to try to train these guys. I'm actually showing a screen. Do you not see that?
Steve, oh, there we go. Now we do. Thank you.
Okay. So you do see that, you see my screen here. Let me flip to the next screen here. Well, let me say this, that basically what you're seeing is that in our solution, it's a single supplier application. So you don't have this Appageddon out in the field where you got 4 or 5 apps and your guys are calling in and saying, hey, well, you know, what do you do with this? It's not a big support hassle. It's actually, you know, a single vendor supplier. And because we partner with our business partners, they actually come in and they can assist in that process as well as far as training and implementation. We are single tenant design. That is a term that you may not know that much about. What this allows us to do is customize at the client level for advanced marketing, market solutions. This allows me, unlike some of our bigger clients like Concur and people like that, who are multi-tenant, which means that the same application works for all customers, our product can be tailored to an individual customer, and we don't actually have to worry about that process. So now I'm going to do a little house cleaning. I just switched my screen. Did you see it switch?
We see the PowerPoint forms apps and the mobile web.
Yes, good, great, okay. So now what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to kind of walk you through this first and foremost, is that we're seeing the mobile app functionality being a very growing aspect of the construction workplace. The daily collection of information is really starting to transform construction companies so that they can monitor and make decisions on a daily basis. Whereas before, without the mobilization of this, it could be something that they do once a week or even once a month if the job sites are off site. So what we've been able to do with our product is be able to collect data. And that's really the aspect of the forms tool. The form is kind of the UPS truck of the data. It's the logistics equipment that we use to get the data into the system so that we can take it in and manage it. The value point here, though, is because that information is validated, just like with our entry point validation, it's tied it's tied to the Sage product line. Then as we bring this data into the system, we can use it with Office Connects. We can do it with all of the reporting tools, because we can combine this information with information that comes from Sage or TimberScan and give you some really robust reporting. We see that the mobile functionality in 2025, we think it's a generational thing. A lot of as your field becomes younger, they're going to be wanting this particular type of processing. They don't want to deal with paper. They're used to that smartphone. They want to be able to do it on their phones or iPads, and that's really the area that I think that you're going to start seeing more and more of that transition, and being prepared for that, not only from a standpoint of maintaining your employee base, but also being able to get that information and taking advantage of this daily processing of information. And then, of course, the idea behind our system is we're fully integrated. We have entry point validation and so on and so forth. So as we go through this today, I'm going to kind of show you, I'm not doing a PowerPoint you to death here. I'm just kind of giving you some of the overlying aspects of that. So the CCS product is built into 4 features. They're called our core 4 features. The Form Wizard, it's a wizard-based form generator, and I'll show you that in a little bit. The workflow, which is the routing. The reporting, because we store the information, we don't just store it, we allow you to be able to get to it and use it in your business processes. And then we've added on global folders so that your guys in the field can actually have copies of those images on their smartphones, as opposed to having to get them sent out or PDF'd and sent to their phones out in the field. So this is what is the basis of the system. So as we go through this demonstration today, you'll kind of see how that rolls out. You can see here, these are some samples of existing forms that we actually deliver the product with. And then these are the modules that we actually have developed around the forms tool. So like just for instance, in the credit card receipt, originally we just pulled the credit card receipt in, brought it in, and then put it in an Excel spreadsheet. So what we did is we took it a step further, and we actually have a full reconciliation module. So where basically the form starts in the field purchase request, we now actually send it to commitments if that's the choice of the customer. So you can see that the flexibility and the functionality of the system goes way beyond a single application. You can have multiple applications or multiple form processes inside of the same tool so that the users can just pick a form and process it. And to them, a form is an app. And so that's kind of how we actually do that. Just looking at the integration component, I've talked a little bit about this. You create the form in the field, it's got the validation, it gets routed for approval, maybe signatures, you might capture some pictures and things like that. It goes into TimberScan AIM. It also stores in the cloud, so you have a copy in the cloud, but we can send it into TimberScan AIM and store that information there, and then paperclip it to Sage. So that basically all of that validation that we need back here is underneath here, and this is the workflow component all the way to Sage, to the paperclip of Sage. Now, just so that you can kind of see how that works, I'm going to kind of zip through this little demonstration here and as I go through, you'll see this and how this actually looks. So this is the actual entry screen of our solution. So as you look through this right here, you can see we spent a lot of time making sure it was clean, simple, easy to read. It was very functional. We can give you as much lookup functionality as we can. For instance, on the temperature side, the wind, all the information that we have in there, we have it set up to where, when you touch on the date, it's going to pop open a date in calendar. When you get down here and you start, entering the information, we give you some options. Like for instance, when you go to put the subcontractors on the job, or you're, selecting the weather conditions, that they're drop down so that you can get consistency in the reporting, so that if you wanted to say, give me all the windy days that we had on that job, you could go in there and pull all the daily reports that basically have associated with that. We give you a whole series of question types, and the fact that you control the question, you could even have the question in Spanish if you deal with Hispanic labor. So you can do and order the questions the way that you want them. This is an example of what we deliver with the system. It's an out-of-the-box function that you don't have to do anything with, but if you wanted to create your own, you could do so. And as you can see through the video right here, basically these are just drop downs, so the guys are just dropping down and hitting it. And what we found over the last 4 or 5 years in development with that, as our users are working through this, they like that aspect because they don't have to go typing. A lot of these guys, their thumbs are all broken up and they can't get to it. This is where we tie into the system. So like down here, we're putting in the subcontractor. It's a Google search. So I can either know the number, know the name, and I can start typing in that information, and it's that entry point validation. So when I send this daily report in and I want to combine it with Sage data, it's already validated so that I can take the information that I collected off the phone and be able to process it like that. So the entry point functionality is very, very important in our system, and it's a competitive advantage. If you notice on all of these things, I can use the dictation at the phone level. I have duplicate functionality, so if I needed to have multiple subcontractors on there, and these are all choices that you make when you build the form. And it's really very powerful. As you go through this, you can see some of the sampling. You can take pictures. You can assign signaturing for validation. I don't have any pictures on this one, but basically you can do all sorts of different things and different question types. that pretty much, allows you the ability to be able to fill out a daily report. And some people take that daily report and they just duplicate what they already do. So as you can see right here, this is the process of filling out the report. Now, when it comes to routing that particular form, you can then take that form in and go in and basically route the form to somebody for approval. Now, once you get past this point here and you route it, they're going to get sent an email of that particular form. And let me pause this right here. This is that image output I was talking about. Now, this is branded with Core Cloud, but this would be your logo. And you can see right away, it's a very clean looking report. So if you wanted to send this or email this to somebody else outside the company or even internally, you get a very classy, very clean looking report that's built in there. And you can actually make it look exactly like the form that you're using now. So as you go through that, I wanted to kind of show you that. But basically what happens is, I'll go back to routing. Once this is actually done and you're ready to go ahead and process this can actually be routed and then sent over to someone for approval. And you can have routing groups set up. You can have individual users. This can be automatic, so that basically the route can actually happen, just by virtue of a submit feature. So we have manual routing that's based on the phone and whatever. But what ends up happening is an email gets sent out to the person who's routed to, and it also goes to their inbox. Now notice right away, when I pull this up and I'm now approving this, I can edit the form. It's an editable form at this point. It has not been submitted. So at this point, if I want to attach a quote or if I want to attach something else, I can do that through the process here and be able to come in and drop an approval signature on here. So the routing functionality is pretty much straightforward, so that you can route, you can have sequential routing. So if 2 or 3 people need to look at it, they can. But for the most part, in the routing side, once it's been routed, then the next step is on submission. That's where this will automatically go into into TimberScan. Now, if you notice, this is the TimberScan AIM search screen. And on this particular screen, what's happening is that you can go through there and select and build your document types and categories, so that you can put all of your documents in here that are in your paper filing cabinets. You can build a document management system. But since this is automatically coming in, what we've done is we preset this up under project management, so that basically these daily reports are going to automatically collect to the daily report document type. And now in this case, I'm just going to go look up. So I'm going to put in the conditions. So I'll pick the daily report. I asked for the job. I could have picked the date here if I wanted to, and the job, so I can have multiple criteria. And if you notice, it's all tied to Sage, so you're getting those lookups here. Now this is in the back office, but once you hit search, you'll notice there's that daily report that was automatically sent into Sage, into AIM. And then when I click on the viewer there, I can actually come in there and see the actual daily report. So, and any notes or anything like that comes in. So you notice it has all the same image that came in. We now are storing that image, so you can go use the AIM to be able to go search this. But we take it to a step further, and this is where the final resting place for this daily report is. And what you're going to see is that when I come over here to Sage and I log in, I've elected through AIM to attach that daily report to the job record. And in this case, you'll see I pull up the job, I go into the job record, and it's on the paperclip. And you'll see it's the same daily report. So not only do I have it stored in AIM, I also have it stored in our cloud, and I've also put this in Sage. So you have 3 different places that we've dropped this off, and because you may have different people that are having access or they spend their time in those systems. But if you notice, all of that transaction that you just saw happened without any double entry. And that's how our AP system was so successful. So what we've done is taken that same concept and moved it out into the forms tool. So let's move into form creation. Just a very simple couple of slides here. Basically, if you notice, it's a wizard. So you start out by giving it a form name, the categories, and then the questions. And then there's some notification pages here. But for instance, if you noticed on that daily report, the general information, employees on the job, subcontractors, and then these are the questions. And as you go through the process of adding the question, you can see it's very simple. You can take a question and make it validate to a table if it's a table question. If you go in here and you want to require the field, you can do that. If you want to make it reportable so that you can use it in our reporting tool, you can set that up. These are some of the samples of questions that types that you have, like yes, no, and A for safety forms and things like that, or pictures for your credit card receipts. We deliver it fully integrated with Sage. So all of the tables that you have in Sage, we now have tied in so that you can validate or create questions that validate against the Sage tables. And then of course, this is where we automatically set up the interface to TimberScan, because this is telling us what document type that this particular form is going to attach to or get sent to. And then these are the fields where we map the field to the question so that it automatically indexes it. So if you had to do this manually, you would have to type all that in. Here, we're going to automatically send it. It's automatically validated, so you have a good, clean process for that. And that's how you build forms. The second component of that is you can actually build customized output. And if you notice, it's like a crystal report tool. You can build, you can draw boxes for your questions. You can, create graphs. It's very, very powerful to get to an output that is acceptable to what you want it to look like. And it can even look like the exact form that you guys are trying to emulate. Now, one of the other pieces of the puzzle, and this is where we kind of separate ourselves, is the fact that our software, every question and answer that we store is searchable. You can either do it through a quick search where you can go in there and search off of the reference information, which are called keywords, or you can do an advanced search where all the content's available. And then once you go in and set in your criteria, it goes out and pulls a record that looks like this. It shows all the information. And because we store all the images and signatures and all that other stuff, if you download the PDF, you can get to the form. So what we see as a future is that the fact is very much going to be like, you don't really need to store the image because you can always regenerate the image. And this is what we call data orientation, where everything becomes digitized. Now, we don't see that for another 5-6 years, but we're seeing it in the medical world. So we're starting to say, hey, in the construction world, especially with the advances of Procore and some of the other systems out there that are cloud-based, the digital information age is coming fastly to the construction market, and we're already set to be a player there because we store every tit and tittle of the information in our system. Last but not least is our reporting mechanism. Same thing here. You can select the form you want. You can pick out the fields that you want to actually have access to. You can then, once you get the list of the forms that are in the system, you can group them by job or by date or however you want to group those items up. And then once you've done that, you can push those out to an Excel spreadsheet. So not only do we have the searching capability of the information within the system, we can also take that information out via Excel by putting together the search criteria and making certain questions reportable and so on and so forth. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point is talk a little bit about some of the advanced functionality that we have. The Forms tool is very powerful because you can take all of the forms that you use in your day-to-day operations and commit those to electronic, mobile, routable forms. So that basically what happens is you now have this standardized forms library for everything from HR type documents to safety documents to accident reports to credit card receipts. All of that's all in one system, so that basically to the user, it's just a form. To you guys, it's actually an application that you can build workflow around, you can process in different ways, and so on and so forth. To give you an example of that is one of the options that you have in our system is our field purchasing and receiving. So if you think about this, if you're using TimberScan or you're not, it doesn't really matter. You can actually start a purchase order, in the field on any kind of device. You can route and approve it. You can send the PO. Remember the output. I can send the PO to the vendor if I need to. And then on submission, I can send it into purchasing commitments or job cost commitments. If you're on Sage 100, you can go straight to the purchase order. But the idea behind it is that this process started in the field, no double entry, went through an approval process, and by virtue of submission, it automatically updated your Sage system, and also TimberScan, it sent the image to TimberScan. So what this does is it allows you the ability now to be able to take that and create this workflow that maybe you don't send the PO to the vendor, no big deal. Maybe you don't want to send it to commitments. Maybe it's just a field PO. We can still send the image down here to TimberScan to do a 2- or 3-way match. So what we've given you now is a tool that allows you to build a workflow that makes sense for your company. Now, the same thing applies in this particular case to receiving. So when the items come in, they can actually snap a picture of the receiving document, fill in a couple of questions, send it, and maybe not have to go to approval. It just goes straight into TimberScan, and it sits there waiting for the invoice. Now, think about this. One of the biggest problems in AP processing is the timing of the PO, the receiver ticket, and the invoice. Because if you're waiting till the end of the week sometimes, or maybe 2 weeks to get your paperwork from the field, you might already have the invoice in play before the PO and the receiver comes in. Well, here you can have that done every day so that you can fix that timing process, so that your PO's there and your receiver ticket's there. And in some of our high volume customers, if the PO and the receiver are there and they match, there's no need to route that invoice out to the PM. He can go ahead and push this straight into Sage and get that cost updated quicker. So PO and purchasing and receiving is one of the functional applications that we built on top of the core cloud system. The next thing that I'll show you is mobile time capture. This is something that we're very, very proud of, because we went out there and looked at the systems that were available. And one of the things that we recognize is that some of them don't do equipment, some of them don't do equipment. Or per diem. They don't allow you to process business rules. So when we designed this system, what we did was I went in there from a standpoint and said, okay, I want a grid that my payroll person can basically sit down and look at this information and see it on a daily basis. So that means that as payroll transactions and per diem transactions and reimbursements come in, I want to see all of those transactions as they occur. So this grid is getting updated every day. And now the crisis the day before payroll is kind of done, because payroll can monitor what's going on, whether it's been approved or not, and so on and so forth. The front side of this is that I can build any kind of payroll timesheet. If I need clock in, clock out, no big deal. If I want to do a daily report with that information, I can add this to a daily report. If it's like we have a driver's timesheet, where the driver puts in his hauls and things like that, but he also puts his time on the form, we can capture that information and send it into the grid. We can take work orders and send it in. So you can have multiple methods of time entry and have it all populate this grid. Now, the other thing that we've done is that you can actually take a timesheet and move it out for approval. But if you want, you can actually have the grid organized, say, by PM, so that he or she goes in and approves time specifically for their job. So they only see transactions for their job. So you can really work through this workflow. And when our engineers come in and we talk about what's the best way to do this, and we have a plan, you have a lot of options in our payroll system, even to the point of customized business rules, to where you may say they don't get per diem if they didn't work more than 4 hours. Or they had to work more than 4 hours to get per diem. Or maybe you have custom fields in payroll that determine how much they get per mile. So at this point in time, see, we can build those specialized rules for your company, and it doesn't affect our other payroll users. But we're very proud of this system. And then we have a fast entry function, which I can enter a crew of 15 or 20 people for time for the whole week in less than 30 seconds. And so it's very robust in how it works, and we're very proud of it. We've got a lot of good users that are basically are in that point of use. So just to kind of give you just a quick review of this, just so you can see, this is that grid, and which you've already seen. So I'm going to kind of bypass that and get down here and just show you some of the time entry here. As you go through here on this right here, and you're looking at the time entry. This is our payroll grid. Let me get to time entry here. There we go. So if you notice right here, this is a sample of our daily report. So for instance, your PM goes in there, or your foreman goes in there. He selects his job. It's all integrated. He can put in the date. He could copy yesterday's if he had a crew on there. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and quickly create time for 5 or 6 folks that are on my crew. So when I click create, it's going to go through there. And now remember, this is a daily report, so there's daily questions that they fill out. So we've combined those, and those can be customized to whatever, questions you want it to use. Okay, and then when you hit on time, watch how this time sets up. In this particular case, the cost codes are across the top, and we have different methods. So if you don't like this view, we have a couple of others. But in this case, this foreman, they work 3 different cost codes. So what you're seeing here is him stretching out his cost codes here. Now he's going to pick his employees that are on his crew. So he could type in their names or whatever. This is his regular time. He didn't have any equipment, and now he spreads the time out based on the crew and how they work that day. Now, once he hits add, it automatically adds those transactions, which he can then come back and edit. So we do a bulk entry on the front end, and then we allow him to go back and handle the exceptions for that day. But as this time is done, it can be sent out for approval. So the timesheet itself can be sent over there, or, if you remember, this is automatically updating the grid. So as this timesheet moves through the system, payroll is always on top of that. So they see what's going on, and if they have an issue, they can, before it becomes a crisis, they can say, hey, Johnny, I need you to approve that time, or you got timesheet sitting in your queue. So this is one of the features that basically we have that allows us to be able to build the timesheets. The other aspect of the system too, and I'll stop it right here, we have some specialized functionality. For instance, in this particular example, where the guys in the field, I have a client that has about 100 folks in the field, they use their smartphones, they key in their time. And they say, okay, I worked on this job 4 hours, I worked on this job 8 hours. That timesheet automatically, or when the foreman comes in, he goes and gets time that was generated in an e-form, and it pulls the time in here as the base hours. And then as they spread those hours out for those guys, it eliminates that paper timesheet where the guys are filling it out in the field. Maybe this is a superintendent in the office. So here again, this is one of the one of the advantages of our solution, is that the workflow that you choose to use we can tailor our system to that workflow. Where most systems are going to want you to pigeonhole into their process, we can actually come in most cases say, well, how do you want to do this? And then we adapt our system to your process. And then if you have something really kind of crazy, which is no big deal because we have clients that do that, we can customize the system for you. I mean, a timesheet. So we have a lot of opportunities and tools with our solution, and that's how we built it and designed it, so that we could be a lot more flexible. And that's what makes us different. And if you can work with something out of the box, then you may not do core, but for the most part, our customers are folks that have specific business rules, or they like that flexibility of being able to manage that process. So I'm kind of winding up here. This is our credit card and expense solution. Basically, on the credit card side, virtually it's the same thing. You're going to create a credit card receipt. We're what we call a proactive method, which means that every time you use your card, you just snap a copy of the receipt and then attach it to a form. And then if you know how to code, you can code. If not, you can route it to somebody for coding. And then once it's submitted, it goes to our back office. And that's where you download the transactions from the credit card vendor, match them up with the receipts. And if something happens where basically you don't have a receipt for that particular transaction, you can click a button and it'll send we call it ding 'em, but it'll send a form out to the credit card user to say, hey, I need you to fill out this information. And so at the end of the day, what you're dealing with right here is that this piece right here, it eliminates about 70% of the work that you spend on credit cards. And this allows you to make sure that all the receipts are in. Once you've got it reconciled, you touch a button, it automatically sends it over to TimberScan, fully entered with all the supporting documents. So there's no double entry here. This is where the most of the work is actually done. So what you're dealing with here is you're just working with your card holders to make sure they're sending those receipts in. And if you have a high volume, you can now do this on a weekly basis or even a daily basis, because we batch process the receipts, so that generally speaking, you can come in here and work that batch and get that cost into those jobs from the credit card receipts faster than waiting to the end of the month. So you have a lot of options here on how this actually works. And with our routing component, all the guys in the field that have the card, all they got to do is snap a copy of the receipt and then attach it to the form. And it may be, if I don't know how to code, it's just 3 or 4 questions, and then I can send it on its way. So it's very, very simple, very easy to do. Again, the form itself is very simple. When you're filling out that information, it's easy to use, and so on and so forth. The other side of the system here, just to kind of walk into some of the other areas of the system that we have, and I'm just going to kind of move through this real quickly and just show you this as we wrap this up. We have a BOM system. It's our material management, purchasing, inventory control, and buyout. So what this system does is this is a fully functional system. It was designed to make the purchasing and inventory function web-based and mobile. So as you're going through the process, you'll notice right here, we mobilize most of the transactional process of this. I can create POs, I can do receiving, I can transfer items. It's a full inventory control system. It can also be just a straight item database if that's how you want to do it. We have the consume and reserve feature. So if you're doing light fabrication, we can manage that process. It's a subledger of the job cost system so that all the transactions are GL and job cost sourced. So you can go back to the source transaction. And what's really unique about our system is that, for instance, once a invoice is actually generated or a PO is actually requested and submitted, it automatically sends the vendor the PO if you chose to do that. It automatically sends a PO image into Sage, and it automatically sends the commitment into TimberScan. I'm sorry, into TimberScan, the image. Now, once you've done the receiving, then it does the same thing. It sends a receiving report into the TimberScan. So when the invoice hits the door and you match up the PO and the receiver, it automatically does the data entry for the distribution. So we've done some really cool things with this, and this is one of our advanced products we call it advanced market product, and it's a full-blown material management system on top of that with a lot of featuring. We also have our equipment management tool. This is built into our system where you can do equipment movement and be able to integrate this with Sage equipment and be able to know where the information, where it sits, who's got control of that piece of equipment. You can do PM forms off of it. So what we do is we take the equipment system and we just allow you to build all sorts of different forms that you might use in managing that equipment. And then, of course, since it's already updated on the, we use the equipment module of Sage, or if you don't, you have the equipment module of Sage, you can use it in here. We have it all fully integrated. So you can, we have an equipment module for that too. This is kind of one of the areas we're really proud of. This is our work process system. We have a full work order billing system that we have built. We do it for specialized markets. And it's fully configurable. That means that, like, this is the header of the work ticket. You can control and tell us, and configure what questions you want on the header side. And also when you get to the detail line, for instance, if you're not using labor, you don't have to use a labor tab, but you can pick up labor, material, estimates. You can put scheduling, notes, approval, billing, and information. And all of this is integrated with Sage. And so that virtually what you do on each one of these is that we can come in with our work order system and customize a work order billing system specifically for your processes. Unlike what you get out of the box with a lot of our vendors, our system is highly configurable. So like if you needed consolidated billing, we can do that. Or if you do a markup on a contract for that customer, we can do that. We have full workflow. It's a very powerful system. And it's also integrated with our whole dispatch system so that basically you can put up dispatch calendars and things like that to be able to manage and track that information. So I'm going to go ahead at this point in time, and I'm going to open it up for questions.
Okay, I have unmuted all attendees, so any attendees that have questions, you can actually should be able to just ask them through this, through the microphone here. So Steve, I have a written question, and it just asks about pricing, and I'm just going to defer that one. If you guys are looking for specific pricing, that would be something that you can reach out to us here at Digitech Solutions, and we can talk about your specific situation and get you that pricing.
Yeah, one of the things I will say, Troy, that on our pricing model, we have gone to actually a monthly style pricing for the subscription services. So that, that's something that is we see as being, a lot of our clients do that, or a lot of our competitors do that, and we just introduced that. So we're going to a more, you can do it on a monthly basis or an annual basis, from when you set up the pricing side. Cool.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So I think we're probably, if you've got some final words.
No, I think what you're seeing, and kind of just going back to the original functionality of the system, what you're seeing is in our solutions is the fact that this processing functionality allows you to leverage your Sage 300 system and open up opportunities now for your field to start, getting more involved in the day-to-day processing of paperwork. That's a trend in the industry right now that you're seeing that is very, very profitable for the companies, because they're able to spot problems a lot faster. So the return on investment for these types of investments are very, very quick. And they just streamline process so much. And what's really going on, and there's a generational change in this, but the younger guys that have been brought up on cell phones or smartphones, they want that. They don't want to fill out a piece of paper, So what you're seeing is this transformation over the next 4 or 5 years as your field guys become, they retire, your older guys, and the younger guys come in. You're seeing more and more of this. So posturing your company's processes around automation is a very positive thing to do. So, I'll just leave you with that.
Andre, do you want to add anything?
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for your attendance today.
Well, thank you.
And Steve and Sandra, thank you for being here. And we will get this recording over to those that were in attendance. And please, if you have any questions, please reach out to us here at Digitech Solutions. Our number is 602-334-4670. And of course, you can drop us an email. You should already have our email from this invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you, guys.